They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him. They have shamed him. They have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them.
She's young, but she's wise beyond her years. And she has access to the president, which is something someone didn't have. The president doesn't surround himself by anybody smart. And Joy Behar and those guys, of course this was going to happen. This is why conservative women just have to move on, do their thing, and not worry about the criticism from folks like at The View.
And we are expecting the media to be hostile.
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's law, as this administration goes. I know the last...
So let's see how the women of The View messed up this time. I don't think you want to miss this one.
Thanks to Karoline's unapologetically bold approach, the hosts of The View are scrambling to cover up their own mess. Believe me, the fallout is nothing short of monumental. Consider Joy Behar, for instance. Here's a woman who loudly touts her feminist credentials and preaches female empowerment. Yet she crossed the line by reducing Karoline's achievements to mere looks.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
The hypocrisy is stark. How can someone who claims to champion women's rights then disparage a successful young woman in the same breath? Karoline, clearly operating on a different level, didn't hesitate to call out these self-proclaimed woke cronies.
They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him. They have shamed him. They have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November the 6th when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have spewed.
And if Karoline is a perfect 10, what does that say about Joy? Enter Fox News' Greg Gutfeld, who delivered a zinger that left everyone buzzing.
Behar calls her a 10. I mean, how dare she objectify a woman with a sexist rating system, but it's such a typical thing from a 1.5.
And let's be honest, the internet has been laughing nonstop ever since. But Karoline didn't stop there. She also unleashed a barrage of comments on the Democratic propaganda apparatus.
And the Democrats are in complete disarray because they have become a globalist party who like to spend taxpayer dollars on useless priorities just to cater to the left's demands here at home.
She made it abundantly clear: ride the Trump wave or be forgotten. Once Trump has moved on, their scandals and media distractions will vanish, rendering their so-called relevance obsolete. Judging by the stunned silence on The View, they took that reality check to heart. Anyone watching can see that The View is simply envious that a younger, sharper, and genuinely deserving talent is outshining them. Following Joy's crude comments, Whoopi Goldberg swooped in, attempting to rewrite the narrative by scolding Karoline for what she termed an intolerance of weakness. Let's be real though, Whoopi wasn't dispensing wisdom. She was frantically trying to mitigate the damage. And Karoline, she refused to back down. In a now viral clip, Whoopi tried to blur the line between civil rights and wokeness, as if they were identical concepts. Karoline wasn't buying it for even a second. With searing precision, she dismantled Whoopi's faulty logic, making it clear that Whoopi either couldn't tell the difference or was intentionally misleading her audience. Judging by Whoopi's reaction, that burn stung. If Whoopi is such a staunch advocate for women's rights, why didn't she call out Joy Behar for reducing Karoline's success to her appearance? Perhaps because Whoopi's moral compass seems to point exclusively left. Instead of holding her co-host accountable, Whoopi chose to attack Karoline after the 27-year-old boldly used her first White House press briefing to challenge the legacy media for eroding the trust of everyday Americans. Conveniently, Whoopi pulled the race card, attempting to shift the discussion to identity politics rather than the real issues, a classic case of deflection. But Karoline wasn't finished. She took aim at The View for peddling baseless accusations, such as trying to pin an assassination attempt on Elon Musk. She highlighted the irony of these hosts crying for accountability while peddling fake news. She reminded them that not long ago, the media was singing an entirely different tune. Now, in a desperate bid to control the narrative, they twist every story to fit their agenda. Karoline wasn't about to let them continue their charade. For years, The View and other legacy media outlets have peddled narratives that suit them, silenced dissent, and shaped public opinion without consequence. But with Karoline's fearless stance, the era of unchecked propaganda is finally drawing to a close. Her call for accountability is forcing these outlets to answer for their reporting. And let's be honest, that's their worst nightmare. With their ability to spin the truth slipping away, their entire playbook is crumbling. Karoline has completely upended the legacy media script, and now The View is in disarray. She even announced a revolutionary shakeup in the White House press pool, unveiling a new media section designed to hold traditional outlets accountable for years of biased reporting and misinformation about President Trump. Karoline declared, "We will call you out when we feel your reporting is wrong or there is misinformation about this White House." For decades, the Associated Press and the White House Correspondents Association dominated the room, deciding who got to ask questions and which narratives were pushed. But not anymore. Karoline made it clear, legacy media will no longer run the show unchecked. Instead, 2 prime seats, once the privilege of White House staff, will now go to fresh media voices willing to challenge the establishment. And if that wasn't enough to send The View into a tailspin, Karoline also reinstated press passes for 440 journalists who had been wrongfully stripped of access under the Biden administration. While many lauded this push for transparency, the View panel reacted very differently. Sunny Hostin scoffed at the notion of new media reporters being qualified to attend briefings, insisting that only legacy media elites deserved that honor. When Whoopi interjected with her trademark condescension, warning that under the new administration people would simply spout off opinions, the irony was palpable. For years, mainstream media, including The View, has twisted narratives to suit their agenda. But now that Karoline is holding them accountable, suddenly Whoopi is suddenly concerned about standards? At the end of the day, this isn't about journalism or ethics. It's about attention. The View thrives on being the center of attention, dictating what the public should believe. And with millions of Americans turning to alternative media, that's the real reason for their panic. For the first time in years, they're losing control of the narrative, and they absolutely despise it. Karoline Leavitt, the youngest press secretary in U.S. history, has taken traditional media to task for losing the trust of the American people, warning that millions are now seeking news elsewhere. She made her stance clear. "We will call you out when we feel your reporting is wrong or there is misinformation about this White House." Now, The View is feeling the heat. For years, they've spread misinformation and unchallenged smears. But those days are over. Karoline Leavitt, a historic figure in the press corps, has put the entire legacy media on notice. Let's not forget, Karoline replaced Karine Jean-Pierre, who was constantly fixated on her own identity. But Karoline has shown that true leadership isn't about checking diversity boxes. It's about holding power accountable and speaking for the American people. After failing to bring Karoline down with cheap shots, The View tried to trap her with a classic gotcha question on illegal immigration. They thought they had her cornered. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Karoline deftly flipped the script, reminding them that Trump's America puts law-abiding citizens first. In an instant, their entire argument crumbled. Yet instead of conceding defeat, The View doubled down, regurgitating their tired left-wing narrative in a desperate bid to trip up a woman too sharp to fall for their games. They love to pretend they care about justice, but let's be honest, this wasn't about defending immigrants. It was about trying to ensnare a woman who was simply too intelligent to be caught in their web. Karoline is relishing every moment, watching them flounder while she stands firm. Karoline isn't just taking on The View, she's challenging the entire legacy media machine, exposing their playbook for all to see. And as they scramble to keep pace, they only confirm her point. In the end, Karoline dropped the ultimate truth bomb. The View has been so preoccupied with catering to the left that they've completely lost their way. For years, they've served as nothing more than a megaphone for the Democratic agenda. But now, With Karoline holding the media accountable, they're at a loss for how to respond. When challenged, they crumble. So what do you think? Are we witnessing the end of mainstream media dominance? Or will they somehow claw their way back to power? Let me know in the comments. And if you crave more hard-hitting breakdowns like this, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Because trust me, this fight is far from over. It's no secret that The View loves to stir the pot, but this time they bit off far more than they could chew. When Karoline stepped into the spotlight as Trump's press secretary, Democrats launched their attacks. But their smear campaign not only failed, it spectacularly backfired. What began as petty envy has now snowballed into a complete reputational collapse for them.